South Africa Investment Conference. May I request that you all take your seats? May I humbly request that you all take your seats? I will repeat, please take your seats. And as you take your seats, please may I also guide you as to the suggested seating. All sponsors, we are grateful for your patronage. Please can all sponsor representatives be to the left of the auditorium as per my hand is guiding. We are thankful for your patronage. Please can all sponsors take their seats to the left of the auditorium as my hand is guiding. Directly in front of me, please may I request all investors to take their seats. Thank you for the support you offer South Africa. We truly appreciate it. Please can all investors be seated closest to the left of the stage, right in front of me. As I walk to your right, please may I request that all government delegates be more aligned with the center of the stage and the logo of the stage, please. Thank you for your leadership. Members of government, DGs, premiers and MECs, please may I ask that representatives of government be more central to the stage. And finally, with respect, thank you for your continued friendship and building relations with South Africa. Can members of the diplomatic corps be furthest to our right? You're all welcome, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are literally seconds away from beginning. If I may request you take your seats, and then we can begin the program. Diplomatic Corps, thank you very much for your time. Members of government, thank you for your time. Investors, thank you for yours. Sponsors, thank you for your support and patronage.
Okay, it's showtime. Oh, he's coming in. I think he's gonna walk again.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay standing as the president makes his way to the venue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished guests, please may I request that you stand to receive and welcome Brenda Mtambo, who will lead us in singing the South African national anthem.
Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. As we take our seats, please turn your attention to the screens for our opening video.
In 2018, President Cyril Ramaphosa launched the South Africa Investment Conference with a bold vision to position South Africa as a leading global destination for investment.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome all of you to South Africa. I'm also here to say that the government of the Republic of South Africa is making progress along the difficult but necessary path of reform that we have embarked on.
The goal was to secure investment pledges worth 1.2 trillion rand over 5 years. By the close of the investment cycle in 2023, South Africa had secured 1.56 trillion rand in investment pledges, exceeding the target by 26%. Many of projects pledged over that period have since been implemented. Building on this momentum, government has committed to a new investment cycle, culminating in the launch of the 6th South Africa Investment Conference in the Western Cape, Wolseley, where an ambitious expansion has become a working reality. Investment pledged through the mobilization drive helped turn vision into reality. Today, Lotus is alive with movement as production lines hum with precision. Lotus Bakeries shows what happens when global capital meets local opportunity. The products made here are more than output. They are livelihoods and stability. Jobs have been created, families are supported, and communities are benefiting from this investment.
My name is Dol Matheson. I am the Managing Director of Lotus Bakeries in South Africa. So Lotus Bakeries had been involved and have made a pledge in the last 3 investment conferences, and we have found it to be a very useful exercise because as part of our investments in South Africa, when any bottlenecks came up, we were able to use the investment program as a way of resolving those bottlenecks. It also gave us a huge amount of confidence that South Africa was open for business and had the infrastructure in place for foreign investment to succeed.
The Northern Cape is rich in sunlight, an advantage that has opened major opportunities in renewable energy. Scatec Solar shows how innovation can unlock natural potential and convert it into economic value. Power generated here has helped ease load shedding. This is more than an energy solution. It is a strategic investment in sustainability.
My name is Alberto Gambacorta and I'm the EVP and General Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa for Scatec. So the company is an integrated renewable energy solutions provider. We are headquartered in Oslo. We work prevalently in emerging markets, of which Sub-Sahara is one of the core focus markets in the company. We operate in different technologies: solar, wind, batteries, hybrid projects, and hydropower elsewhere in the world. It's a success story of the first hybrid project for the company in the continent, still the largest one in the continent, spanning about 1,200 football fields, about 10 kilometers from one side to the other. And if you were to run around it, it would be 42 kilometers, almost a marathon.
In KwaZulu-Natal, investment is also driving innovation in advanced manufacturing. Kerry Group operates at the intersection of technology, creativity, and global demand. Every product leaving the production line reflects precision and shows how investment in innovation can create long-term value. In Pretoria, in Gauteng, VM Automotive, owned by black industrialist Gibson Njenje, is another company that made its pledge in the initial investment mobilization drive. This company is fast gaining recognition as one of the leading automotive component suppliers to established global brands such as Mercedes-Benz.
Started the company in 2012. We started supplying Mercedes from here actually until the old series ran out, the W205. Now they're running to W206. But W205 we supplied mostly. So in 2019 we put in a bid for the contract of the W206 with Mercedes-Benz. And we went to our funders and told them this is what we're doing and would want you to support us.
In Limpopo, mining investment is laying the groundwork for long-term value and local development. Platreef, Ivan Plat's flagship project, is unlocking South Africa's mining potential through advanced techniques. This is not only about extraction, it is about creating value from the ground up.
Dr. Patricia Makesha, I am the executive chairperson of the board of Ivan Place. So I look at the entire strategy. How do we implement the strategy of building the mine and affecting all the stakeholders, which is the communities, the government, and the shareholders? Ivan Place is in the heart of 20 villages in Mokopane, and all 20 communities are the shareholders of Ivan Place Company. Our contribution is mainly on skills development, enterprise and supply development, and socio-economic development. 26% of our shares belong to the local communities.
Manufacturing continues to turn raw materials into higher value products. PG Bison's plant in Mpumalanga continues to drive economic development through manufacturing and resource transformation. Raw materials are processed into high-value products that support construction and industry.
Gerard Victor, PG Bison, I'm the CEO of the company. So at the 2020 investment conference, PG Bison pledged to invest just under 2 billion rand in investments in Umkhondo. But none of this was possible without the DTIC and lately also Eskom that had to build a complete new power line that's feeding this factory. I must really say this shows a complete partnership that can deliver when we put our heads together and make sure we want to deliver a project in our country. Mr. President, I proudly stand here and I wish you all the best for the 2026 investment conference.
Our previous investment conferences laid the foundation for accelerating economic growth by building partnerships. Now is the time to see what it means to invest, partner, and prosper.
May I recognize Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. May I recognize ministers and deputy ministers, directors generals of government administrative departments, premiers of all provinces, along with MECs, local and international investment partners, captains of industry, development finance institutions, members of the diplomatic corps, local and international media, colleagues from across the world, countrymen and compatriots, South Africans, all of you watching the proceedings online. It is my greatest pleasure to welcome all of you to the 6th South African Investment Conference, where we're bringing together capital and opportunity, leadership, and partnership. We all know why we're here today: to help South Africa grow, to remind you all that this is a nation future fit, dynamic, creative, innovative, a modern African economy, and one you can bet on. Throughout the day, we're going to tell you the story of South Africa, and we urge you to consider the catalytic reforms of the last 8 years as we urge you to invest, to partner, to prosper.
Thank you very much, Lerato. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is so good to see you. I feel and a little bit tempted to ask everyone to wave their checkbooks, but those times have gone. This conference stands as a clear demonstration of South Africa's commitment to building a globally competitive economy through collaboration between all of our key stakeholders: government, business, and of course you, our investment partners. As we heard in the opening video earlier on, this platform also carries with it a very, very impressive track record. Now, since 2018, we have mobilized more than 1.5 trillion in investment commitments. And I know the numbers, people like me often go, oh, wow, Andile, that's just commitments. Actually, of the 1.5 trillion of commitments, 634 billion rands has already been implemented across the economy. I think that deserves a round of applause. So today, ladies and gentlemen, is not a starting point, it's a continuation. Yes, a new investment drive building on that foundation with greater scale, greater discipline, and greater ambition.
So there are many ways to describe South Africa, a country of diverse nations, intriguing landscapes, friendly people. But we're not here to recite poetry, we're here to focus on the numbers. So let us give you some numbers. 20%. That's the return of investment in 2025 through the capital markets as reported by the JSE last year. 96%. That's the energy availability on any given day in South Africa because of the solid interventions made by Eskom. 3.5%. That's the average inflation rate over the last year, aligned with South Africa's monetary policy, making this economy one of the lower inflation terrains globally. We've also seen important investments earmarked, buttressed by government guarantees, to refurbish ports, freight rail, logistics, pipelines, all of which will unlock capacity of up to 250 million tons in export capacity. And last year, 10.4 million international visitors came to our shores. That's a 17.6% improvement on travel numbers year to date. The final number, top 3. South Africa ranks in the top 3 global production sources for critical minerals and is number 1 in terms of reserves in platinum group metals, and it's among the top tier for chromium, manganese, vanadium, and others. So as the world reimagines a future driven by AI data-backed economies, we are confident that South Africa, on the basis of these metrics, stands poised to integrate into global supply chains and participate in changing world markets.
Indeed, Lerato. And in fact, in today's program, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to be hearing about. We're going to be hearing about a very clear strategic focus on digitization, decarbonization, and diversification. These here in South Africa are not just abstract themes. These are very investable value chains that positions our country in the global economy. So today is ultimately about decisions. Decisions to allocate capital, to build long-term partnerships. So,
as we get into the agenda of the day, knowing that many of you have traveled far and wide to hear about the opportunities in the country, we also want to say that an enabling policy environment is why we have started to see catalytic transformation.
Yeah.
And part of that is as a result of the fact that South Africa, its government is in its 7th administration, a politically diverse administration, collaborative and collective in pursuance of these economic and investment objectives. We recognize that investments propel growth, and growth leads to jobs. And the 7th administration is ready to deliver. So, without further ado, we'll be introducing you to the custodian of this forum, but just a few housekeeping notes on how we interact as panelists.
To get the show on the road, thank you, Lerato. There's going to be a QR code that will flash right behind me, ladies and gentlemen. Please grab your handsets and scan this QR code. What is behind this QR code is your friend for the day. And Mr. President, the President of the Republic has his phone out and he is scanning the QR code. I don't know why you are not. So please scan the QR code. In there, you will find the program for the day. You'll find a couple of information packages that are there for you, including the booklet for the program today. How it's going to run, as you'll see in the program, we're going to be having an opening address by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, who will then set the strategic context for today's discussion. He will then be followed by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, who will outline the country's vision and growth and investment and plans for reforms. In fact, they're not plans, they're actual reforms that are taking place. We will then move into a bit of a series of strategic dialogues. There'll be a couple of panels. These will be bringing together policymakers, investors, and industry leaders as well. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be anchored in another series of parallel commissions. These are very exciting, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be different rooms in level 2, where you'll be going in and out in different rooms and experiencing very different discussions across the day. These are sector-specific, and some of them are even region-specific. All of this is behind that QR code. And then, of course, we'll conclude the day with the signature announcement. I'm sure it's a moment we all look forward to. How much have we raised this time around? And we'll close the day with the final word from President Cyril Ramaphosa before the gala dinner tonight.
A final word from tech-savvy President Cyril Ramaphosa. All right, let's remind you, we're here to invest, to partner, to prosper, and to really prepare for a future of decarbonization, digitalization, and diversification. But without further ado, let us introduce you to the minister who's really tasked with bringing this forum to life. This forum advances, I would say, the work that he and his team do on South Africa's industrial strategy, driving investment, supporting business growth, and strengthening this country's global competitiveness. So please, welcome warmly the Honourable Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Mpho Parks Dau.
Thank you very much to the program directors, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Mr. Wamkele Nene, Premiers, MECs and Executive Mayors, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, business leaders and investors from across the globe, members of the Fourth Estate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the 6th South Africa Investment Conference. Our message today is clear. South Africa is open, South Africa is ready, and South Africa is an investment destination of choice. I would like to begin this morning with a reflection on the words of the President. And I quote, "Investments in South Africa are secure. Our business environment is stable. This is supported by policy certainty and regulatory safeguards that we have," close quote. We gather here today in a world that is, by any measure, more uncertain than it was when this conference series began back in 2018. The rules that once governed global trade are under pressure. The share of world trade, governed by agreed multilateral rules, has contracted. Major economies have turned inward, and South Africa, like every open, trade-dependent economy on the planet, has felt those currents. We have learned that complexity is not a reason for paralysis, but rather it is a prompt for action. When the status quo was appended in April 2025, many predicted a reckoning. The prognosis was steep. Tens of thousands of jobs in citrus, wine, and vehicle manufacturing in South Africa were said to be at risk. Economists estimated the tariff shock could shave off measurable points of growth. It was, in the parlance of the moment, a crisis. What happened instead? We sure are a nation that demonstrates resilience. Rather than wait for a restoration of the old order, we deepened our butterfly strategy, reorientating South Africa's trade promotion towards new high-growth markets across Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. We activated the Export Support Desk to redirect affected exporters into alternative markets. We accelerated negotiations with China and Thailand on agricultural protocols, and in February this year, we signed the China-Africa Economic Partnership Agreement, or CAEPA as it's known, securing a pathway of duty-free access for South African exported products into a 3.5 trillion rand consumer market. Full zero tariff treatment for South African goods in China takes effect on the 1st of May 2026. What is evident is South Africa has indeed turned the corner. Ladies and gentlemen, consider the evolution of our trade partnerships over the past 3 years. With Europe, we did not simply manage an existing relationship, we remade it. The EU-South Africa Clean Trade and Investment Partnership, or CTIP, signed by President Ramaphosa and his European counterpart, President von der Leyen, in November 2025, is the first partnership of its kind anywhere in the world. South Africa is the first CTIP partner of the EU because of who we are and what we represent. The largest investment partner in sub-Saharan Africa, with bilateral trade flows of 860 billion rand in 2024, offering a stable, predictable, and profitable market and representing the most industrialized gateway to the African continent, and a lot more. The CTIP is now in active implementation. The inaugural business-to-government dialogue was convened here in Johannesburg just 3 weeks ago, drawing over 150 representatives from industry and government. The EU has mobilized a combined investment package of nearly 230 billion rand for South Africa under its Global Gateway Initiative, covering the just energy transition, critical raw materials, digital connectivity, and pharmaceutical value chains. This is demonstrative of the implementation of beneficiation at source of reindustrializing the South African economy. With Africa, the progress is structural and accelerating. South Africa is the continent's leading exporter of manufactured goods and its largest outward investor. The FCFTA, with 54 member countries and the potential to add more than 7 trillion rand in cumulative income to the continent by 2035, is moving from aspiration to implementation with us as partners. In the last 12 months, we have been to the DRC, Cameroon, Algeria, Egypt, Mozambique, Lesotho, and Ethiopia, to mention but a few. The work is already yielding results for South African industrial exports. Across the Middle East, new partnerships with the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia are advancing, supported by a coordinated effort between the Presidency, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, and the DTIC to make inroads into high-growth markets that a decade ago barely featured in our trade portfolio. We have even forayed into new frontiers like ASEAN and pivoted to traditional partners in Mercosur. We have the foundation of a preferential trade agreement, the SACU-Mercosur Preferential Trade Agreement, covering more than 1,000 tariff lines. We see this agreement as a platform with much greater potential than has been realized, and we are eager to work with our Brazilian partners to expand its product coverage and increase its utilization within the business community on both sides. The fruit of our efforts as exports into that region begin to cushion our economy from both the tariffs and the impact of the evolving conflict in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, turning the corner on trade is one dimension of our story. The other is that we have demonstrated about our capacity to turn investment commitments into operational projects and real economic activity. When President Ramaphosa launched the investment conference platform in 2018, we set an ambition that many regarded as both aspirational and inspirational. 8 years on, the first 5-year investment mobilization drive exceeded its target. But figures do not tell the story the way projects do. Allow me to illustrate this with some examples. In Limpopo, as reflected in the video, the President opened the Plat Reef mine in Mokopane, a world-class critical minerals facility employing more than 2,000 workers from the local community with a share owned by a community trust. That project originated from a 2.8 billion rand pledge made at this conference. The mine is now operational, the jobs are real, the ownership by the community is a living fact. In Tshwane, BMW invested 4.2 billion rand in the electrification of its Roslyn plant, the only BMW manufacturing facility on the African continent. That commitment was made at this conference. Today, Roslyn is functioning as a facility for new energy vehicle production, anchoring South Africa's position in the global automotive transition. At this 6th conference, the pipeline continues in the same vein. Every announcement that will be made today has been vetted, signed by a company executive, and backed by board approval and confirmed funding. This conference has done something no preceding conference has. When announcements are presented to President Ramaphosa this afternoon, it will have been a result of convening of all of society, organized business and labor, civil society and government at different levels, all informed by our industrial policy, our export strategy, our macroeconomic outlook, and our diplomatic engagement and partnerships. That is what credible investment conferences look like. Ladies and gentlemen, the new investment cycle is the platform on which we declare our ambition for the next phase. Where we are going is organized around 3 interlocking pillars: diversification, decarbonization, and digitalization. The organizing principles of our industrial policy, each backed by concrete implementation. We are clear-eyed about the constraints that still impede investment, however. No credible conversation about investment can proceed without acknowledging this. Regulatory approval timelines remain a material barrier. In response, we have created a fusion center precisely to track these impediments, escalate them, and respond to and resolve them in real time. Beyond project-level facilitation, we're advancing structural remedies. The Omnibus Fast Track Act will enable streamlined licensing, fast-track visas for scarce skills, and digitized permits across multiple regulatory domains. Legislative and policy amendments are being progressed to remove the systemic blockages that no amount of case-by-case intervention can resolve. Ladies and gentlemen, the butterfly spreads its wings not because conditions are easy, but because we have, without the benefits of the typical stages of the genesis of a butterfly, built the capacity to leapfrog our economy to fly in turbulence. That capacity, the strategy, the partnerships, the pipeline, the institutions, and the people is what you see gathered in this room today. We're not asking you to take a leap of faith. We're inviting you to follow the evidence. Come and invest with us, come and partner with us, and together let us prosper. Dear guests, it is now my profound honor to invite the leader whose vision it was to initiate this conference series and who has moved it from ideation to real and impactful implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. I thank you.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program directors, Lerato and Andile, who always, as you direct this investment conference, just lift its stature and make us all look forward to the discussions that will take place. Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Shipokosha Paul Mashatile, Minister of Trade and Industry, Mpho Pakstau, ministers and deputy ministers who are here present, and they've come in their great numbers, and we thank them. The premiers of our 9 provinces are also here. The executive mayor of Johannesburg and other mayors of our various other metros are also here. MECs who assist premiers in the governance of our country in various provinces are here. Ambassadors and high commissioners, I extend our greetings. And I also extend my greetings to the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Wanele Mene, all the way from Ghana, representing the AU in that part of the world where his offices are. Representatives from labor, civil society, and the various political parties that are representing our people in our parliament, traditional leaders who are here present, and community leaders, and guests and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to South Africa, and particularly to Gauteng, to Johannesburg, the city of gold, our country's largest economic hub. 140 years ago, the discovery of gold beneath the soil of this place where we are holding this conference. What was set out in motion was an industrial boom that would shape South Africa's economic destiny. It had started somehow in Kimberley when diamonds were discovered, when one of those who looked at that shiny stone said, "It is on this stone that the future of South Africa will be built," and that was in 1867. In 1888, they moved further north and found gold in this place. Today, Gauteng is a financial and industrial powerhouse that contributes the largest share of our GDP as a nation. The city of Johannesburg is South Africa's financial capital and home to Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest and most advanced bourse on our continent. The story of Johannesburg, a city founded on the promise of opportunity, is a reflection of South Africa itself. They came here to mine gold. It was in some ways boom and bust. Boom for those who made it good, and bust for the majority of black people who were not given the opportunity to really benefit from that boom. We are a young nation, just 32 years old. The dawn of democracy in 1994 secured our freedom, freedom from exclusion, freedom from oppression, but it also unleashed our potential. It set out an irreversible path towards progress and a shared prosperity. Today, South Africa is the largest and the most industrialized, open, and diverse economy on the African continent. Our economy is dynamic, it's enterprising, and is finely calibrated for growth and power by innovation. We have an economy that has proven itself to be remarkably resilient. It weathered the transition from apartheid, better still, from colonialism to apartheid, to the global financial crises, the years of state capture that we went through, a debilitating energy crisis, and COVID-19 pandemic. Even amidst these strong headwinds, the South African economy has maintained core financial and institutional stability. This year's South Africa's investment conference takes place against a backdrop of growth as well as recovery. Investment conferences such as this are an opportunity for us to showcase the attractiveness of investment opportunities in our country to domestic and international investors. We are able to connect investors with local opportunities. We are also able to attract foreign direct investment. And these conferences help to facilitate strong partnerships by bringing together governments, business, banks, development finance, and finance institutions. But they also bring together people, ordinary people who are able to move from contact to contract and are able, even during their tea breaks or coffee break, are able to meet, to have a conversation, and to exchange cards and to talk about each other's businesses. But there are also soft moments, even in conferences like this. I had, and I digress for a minute, I had to get information of what happened during the second investment conference. There was a fellow called Albert who came from Europe and came to South Africa. He was attending this conference and he met someone else. They were having coffee. And this lady happened to drop something on the floor. And Albert, the quintessential gentleman, immediately went down and picked up the little lipstick that she had dropped. And he gave the lipstick back to her. And they later tell me that handing over the lipstick immediately got their eyes to lock. But the story doesn't end there. It's a beautiful story. Those who know me know that I like color. So they say their eyes locked, and they had wanted to talk about their businesses. They're both serious business people. The lady was here in South Africa running a business, a big executive in a business, and Albert came from one of the European countries, and the lipstick got them to talk. They went and sat in a corner. Instead of talking about business, they were looking into each other's eyes. And later, seriously, 4 years later, just last year, they sought to meet me and they said, Mr. President, we met at your second investment conference, and now she is pregnant. and we got married without your permission. We're going to have this child. We want to name this child after your investment conference. Can can we call her investment? And I said, of course. So these conferences, they are quite amazing. Use them to good effect. So I'm not suggesting that you should start looking out for a lipstick that has fallen. Be serious at the conference, but if the occasion occurs where a lipstick has fallen, don't look away, pick it up. Under the Government of National Unity, which we formed after the 2024 elections, we have recorded 4 consecutive quarters of growth into early 2026, and our economy is creating more jobs. Inflation, as we heard, is stable and is converging towards our 3% target. Our sovereign rating has been upgraded, and last year we were removed from the Financial Action Task Force, grey list. Last year, South Africa hosted the first summit of the G20 on African soil. I guess because of the success that we achieved, we overachieved and are now being punished. But that's fine. Our G20 presidency elevated South Africa's global profile and deepened bilateral relationships that are today reflected in investment commitments from 15 source markets across the 5 continents. We are meeting at a time of uncertainty for the global economy. Geopolitical fragmentation, supply chain disruptions from conflicts and wars and trade tensions are radically impacting global capital flows. In such conditions, South Africa presents what I would call a favorable proposition as a resilient, credible, and reform-oriented investment destination with strong fundamentals. Your presence here as business people and investors and bankers today signals that as investors, you see what we see: real and enduring potential, long-term value, and untapped opportunity. Today, we have with us more than 1,200 delegates from more than 50 countries around the world who believe in South Africa's potential and see this as a favorable place to invest and to do business. You are here because you want to be part of our growth story. Between 2018 and 2023, having set a target of attracting 1.2 trillion rand in investments, we attracted 1.5 trillion in credible, verifiable investment commitments in energy, in telecommunications, in infrastructure, property, mining, advanced manufacturing, and across a range of other sectors. This proved that South Africa is an investable market. But more importantly, it also showed that South Africa is ready to do business. Our investment strategy is anchored in sectors that will drive growth and create jobs at scale, including manufacturing, mining, beneficiation, digital infrastructure, agriculture, and the green industrialization sector. Now, this 6th South African Investment Conference is being convened under the 3Ds framework that we've crafted to label our investment drive, which is namely decarbonization, digitization, and diversification. These 3Ds talk to the direction we want our investment drive to take place. With the ease of doing business being a cross-cutting theme, we know that as investors, you tend to reward execution and not just commitment, and not just talk. You are here because you value ambition and you value a clear vision. As investors, you are looking to investment destinations that have strong fundamentals, that are resilient, credible, and reform-oriented. And the South African economy meets this criteria. Now, this 6th South African Investment Conference stands at the crossroads of opportunity and ambition, ready to turn pledges into projects on the ground. The shift in our economic trajectory that we are witnessing now is the result of deliberate, sustained structural reform that we have embarked upon as a government. And to do this, we set up a facility, a structure that we call Operation Vulindlela, meaning to open the way in isiZulu, one of our 12 languages. And it is a joint initiative of the Presidency, the National Treasury, bringing together all the other key departments in our government, helping us to get rid of the silo mentality that often prevails in government. And this has enabled us to implement far-reaching economic reforms for rapid growth. Its mandate is simple: to reduce the cost and the risk of investing in South Africa, not through speeches like what I am doing now, but through measurable implementation. So if you like, you can just discard what I am saying now and focus on whether we are implementing what we say or not. The twin pillars of structural reform and policy responsiveness have enabled us to bring about far-reaching changes that are supporting our improved economic performance. And a key priority for Operation Vulindlela from the onset was the crucial building block of solving our visa challenges. And this came about because a number of business people, both internal operator access. that private investors require. For we knew that as we were restructuring our energy infrastructure or architecture, there will be a number of generators who will be using solar, wind, and many other sources of energy. As they do so, they do need to have the hope and the trust that their generation and input into the transmission is going to be well managed. Through the Energy Action Plan that I announced in 2022, we have brought an end to load shedding and ensured a reliable supply of electricity. This is essential to allow businesses to operate and make decisions to invest. Regulatory reforms in the electricity sector have already unlocked a significant and growing pipeline of investment, with more than 220 gigawatts of renewable energy projects in development and 36 gigawatts already in the grid connection process. Now, over the next 5 years, we will add massive new solar, wind, and battery storage capacity to transition our economy towards cheap green energy and sources at scale. We are now moving rapidly to establish a competitive wholesale electricity market and to complete the unbundling of Eskom through the establishment of a fully independent transmission operator. Now, at the same time, we are moving to enable private investment in expanding our transmission network through independent transmission projects for the first time. Our Minister of Electricity and Energy is working diligently to make sure that this happens. Transitioning to a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy and a society remains a priority, and it is in line with our international climate commitments that we made at the United Nations, as well as our ambitious nationally determined contribution to combat climate change. Decarbonization, as it is a pillar of our investment strategy, will create new investors, new industries rather, new jobs, and new opportunities in green hydrogen, battery storage, electric vehicle manufacturing, and in the manufacture of components and infrastructure that is decarbonizing the world urgently. The 29 billion in confirmed renewable energy investment today is really a vote of confidence in our rapidly transforming energy sector. South Africa's abundant mineral reserves make us uniquely placed to leverage the growing global demand for critical minerals needed for clean energy, for hybrid, electric, and new energy vehicles, technological applications, and by other heavy industries. Now, as the producer of more than 70% of the world's platinum group metals, and with some of the world's largest manganese and chrome reserves, we are well positioned as a strategic partner in this rapidly growing sector. We've been firm that the energy transition must be just and that it should leave no one behind. And this is important for us because there are communities, there are workers who could be left behind as we transit to renewable energies. And our view is that we need to take them along. They must find new jobs. They must be retrained. They must be uptrained and upskilled. Our Just Energy Transition Investment Plan of 2023-2027 is a blueprint for decarbonizing our economy and achieving energy security, whilst at the same time supporting affected communities and industries. Efficiency in the network industries is the backbone of a competitive economy. As we have done with the electricity sector, we are driving a series of reforms in the logistics sector to build world-class rail networks and ports that are efficient, that are competitive, and that will support our exports. The cornerstone of our reform program is the National Rail Policy, complemented by the National Freight Logistics Roadmap that has been crafted. These policies enable private investment in port and rail operations. And this is where we've crafted an environment where the public sector and the private sector can work together, side by side, to create value for our country. Last year, we also signed a 25-year concession for the Durban Container Terminal Pier 2, representing 11 billion in private investment in one of South Africa's and most critical logistic nodes. A transparent and effective regime for third-party access to the freight rail network is now in place. And now this is a demonstration by South Africa that we're willing and open to working with the private sector so that there can be mutual benefit for all. 41 freight rail slots have been allocated to private train operating companies, and we expect the first private operator to commence operations in 2027. By ending inefficient monopolies and introducing competition, we will reduce the cost of electricity, of transport over time, enabling our manufacturing and mining, agriculture, and other industries to thrive and to compete, rather than just to continuously rely on one monopoly. With one monopoly, innovation is quite lacking. With one monopoly, there are inefficiencies that come in. So with diverse operators, we find competition actually has greater benefits. Digital transformation holds significant potential for economic growth and investment. South Africa already has world-class digital infrastructure, near universal internet access and smartphone penetration, and a regulatory environment that enables innovation. We're implementing reforms that will create a digitally enabled economy and position our country as a leading hub for digital and financial services. In these ways, we are positioning South Africa to become a major player in the economy of the future, combining the lowest cost solar and wind power in the world with advanced digital infrastructure and a skilled workforce that can compete at a global level. The water sector is another area where we need to focus more intently. And we have the reliable water access governed by an equitable, transparent regulatory regime is key for business stability, and we have put in place a set of interventions to transform the provision as well as the management of water services across the country. We are a water-scarce country and have therefore needed to pay closer attention to the water challenges. We are prioritizing reforms at the provincial and local government level in both the immediate and long term that will create a sustainable, well-functioning water system. First, we are establishing professionally run water utilities in all of our 8 metropolitan cities, with water revenues ring-fenced properly and invested back into maintaining and expanding water infrastructure. Secondly, we are establishing a robust regulatory framework to ensure that water service providers do perform their functions effectively. We have embarked on a massive water infrastructure build program, including dam construction, distribution infrastructure, upgrades, bulk water expansion, and desalination. One such project is phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project that is targeted for completion by 2028. I often say to the Prime Minister of Lesotho that God and Providence has given them something free that just falls on their mountains, and they now sell it to us. I say, this is extraordinary. What you get free from nature, you now package to sell to us. But I also say to him, but it gets worse. You then ask us to come and build the dam and build the channels to bring free water to Gauteng, to Johannesburg, and then you want money for it. And he says, that's what small countries do. So that's the advantage they have. So we do buy water from Lesotho, and these projects will be overseen by a new National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. The water sector is ripe for investment, and we have set up a dedicated water partnership office to facilitate private sector participation in areas such as reducing non-revenue water, investing in wastewater treatment, water desalination, and reuse of water, with more than 50 billion rand in projects already in development. So great opportunities are abundant there. Our structural reform agenda has laid the foundations, and now we are harnessing its momentum. We are embarking on the largest and most ambitious cycle of infrastructure investment in our country's history. Infrastructure, as I often say, is the flywheel that propels economic growth. It boosts productivity, it propels trade and reduces the cost of doing business. It creates immediate and meaningful employment opportunities at scale. With this unprecedented investment, we are kickstarting the cycle. Over the next 3 years, the state has budgeted for the investment of more than 1 trillion rand, or approximately $58 billion in modernizing and expanding public infrastructure across our country. This includes 950 billion rand in planned infrastructure investment. Spending as much as 375 billion has been allocated to state-owned enterprises to support, maintain, and upgrade, and also expand infrastructure facilities. In addition to this, our state-owned enterprises have allocated for major infrastructure projects for the medium term. The South African National Road Agency will be investing between 300 and 400 billion for upgrading and maintaining our national road infrastructure. Up to 250 billion is being invested in ports and logistics and modernization, which is driven by our state-owned enterprise Transnet. The Port of Durban, the busiest port on the continent, is being expanded to handle high container volumes and to improve efficiency with similar upgrades in Cape Town, Port of Ngqura, and Eastern Cape. We will be allocating a total of approximately 420 billion to the Passenger Rail Agency for rebuilding corridors and a multi-year rolling stock program. As I indicated earlier, the water sector has been earmarked for substantial public investment, with projects in the pipeline, including the Olifants River Management model and the Limpopo and Mkomazi Dam, which is linked to phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. Over the next 3 years, we will be investing more money in energy generation to support the Department of Energy's roadmap for long-term energy security. Other projects in the investment pipeline are to upgrade our airports and to ensure that our airports that are busier than many others have sufficient investments and are also able to improve their own logistics. And in doing so, we're moving forward one project at a time. One project of which we are particularly proud is the 5 billion rand investment of extending capacity of the square kilometer array, the telescope project in the Karoo, in the Western Cape region, Northern Cape really. The SKA is currently building 2 supercomputers that, once completed, will be the most and will be amongst the fastest computers in the world. This isn't just a statement to the value of strategic public investment in digital infrastructure. It is also the reflection of South Africa's scientific excellence and world-class scientific research output. And this showcases South Africa, that South Africa is up there with many other countries. And to get this facility, we competed with countries such as Australia, the UK, Canada, and a number of other countries. And in the end, it was brought here. And it is a true wonder to see. And it is in none other place than South Africa, one of the smallest countries in the world. And we are proud of that. And it is almost like in the desert, in the hottest place in our country. And these magnificently big telescopes, they just scan the whole universe and keep on producing some of the most outstanding photographs of what happens or continues to happen in the outer space. And now for them to build one of the biggest and fastest computers is something that possibly could never have been thought of to come out of Africa. In my State of the Nation address last month, I said that we will be utilizing innovative funding methods that will reduce and attract investors to fast-track investment infrastructure projects. One of these is the infrastructure fund that we established out of the need to deploy blended finance to infrastructure development. Last year, the fund approved blended finance projects with a combined value of approximately 38 billion in water and sanitation, student accommodation, health, energy, and transport. Last year, we also issued regulations for public-private partnerships in support of attracting more private sector participation investment in national infrastructure build. Last year, we also deployed innovative instruments such as the credit guarantee vehicle to de-risk private investment in infrastructure. Now, as South Africa, we remain committed to staying the course on fiscal discipline and to accelerating momentum of the reform agenda. The Minister of Finance, in announcing his budget this year, focused on the issue of fiscal discipline, and that is what we are irrevocably committed to, but also to leverage investments to build an economy that is inclusive, that is transformed, and that benefits all South Africans. Unlike the economies that we had under apartheid that just benefited a few. The transformation of our economy is necessary to drive sustained growth, reduce inequality, and correct the imbalances and injustices of the past. We are undertaking a review to refine, to realign, and strengthen our broad-based Black economic empowerment framework to ensure that it supports transformation while at the same time enabling investment and growth. There are those who say it is an impediment to investment, and we say it is actually one of the key ingredients that will enhance investment and growth as well. Now, Black economic empowerment provides a foundation for inclusive growth by expanding participation in the economy and then enabling us to harness the skills and contribution of all South Africans. What makes South Africa's empowerment laws distinct is that they are practical and innovative. They are inclusive, and they give a clear guarantee to everyone that growth should be shared. In addition to pure equity participation measures, we also have what we call an equity equivalent investment program, the EEIP. Now it was created to accommodate multinational companies whose global practices or policies prevent them from complying with our empowerment laws of ownership, and to invest in socio-economic and skills development as well as enterprise development without having to sell equity in their local subsidiaries. Since its inception, the EEIP has onboarded some of the world's leading multinational firms who have leveraged the program to direct investment in local development, to incubate Black, youth, and women-owned businesses, and to fund skills development. And what they have done through this, they have made themselves a truly South African corporate citizen. Our overriding objective is to support firms with compliance and to embrace empowerment as a meaningful investment in South Africa's long-term economic stability. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, we would like investments that are made should in the end deliver measurable benefits, not only to one segment, the stakeholders in business, but to all. Investment projects must include clear local content plans, formal skills transfer initiatives, community development commitments, and transparent environmental safeguards. The skilling of our people, especially young people, is critical as we embark on the skills revolution, which is underpinned by a dual training system that we are embarking on now. We are expanding programs that will link training with universities and colleges and companies to create the pipeline of technicians and project managers and engineers that are needed in our economy. This is but an overview of the scale of the deep transformative changes that are taking place in South Africa, in our economy, as we seek to position ourselves as an investment destination. Now, the progress continues to be acknowledged by our international and continental development partners. During G20 presidency that South Africa had the privilege of leading, we concluded a clean trade and investment partnership with the European Union, valued at approximately 12 billion euros, which amounts to about 237 billion South African rands. And this was around the just energy transition, infrastructure, skills, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, and other sub-industries. This African Development Bank has also confirmed 20 billion rand for the 2026 financial year, directed at infrastructure, energy transition, human capital, and governance. In addition, the SA Afri-Exim Investment Facility, anchored by the Afri-Exim Bank, has put forward or made a commitment for 176 billion rand to South Africa, a structural instrument that will channel patient, concessional capital into the sectors where the second drive requires most. The new development bank, the BRICS Bank, has also indicated that they will make approximately 34 billion rand available for 26-27 period. At standard leverage ratios, the development finance institutions' commitments alone can mobilize between 393 billion rand and 786 billion in additional private investment over the drive horizon. This is what partnerships at scale looks like. And this is the type of partnership that we appreciate here in South Africa. So this year's South Africa Investment Conference marks the formal transition from recovery to expansion, from rebuilding confidence to accelerating growth in our economy. I have laid out just some of the sectors of our economy that are ripe for investments. There are many more. Extensive opportunities also exist in agriculture, in agro-processing, in professional and financial services, in property, in digital technologies, advanced manufacturing and other high-growth industries. Now, to crowd in investments across the breadth and the range of South African economy, today we are formally launching the second presidential investment mobilization drive with a target of 2 trillion rand in new investment over the next 5 years. The last time we said 1.2 trillion. Now, I think we are being too modest by saying we want 2 trillion. I think it should be a lot higher. But I want to hear what your thoughts are. And your thoughts will be exemplified to me by making commitments that will just top the 2 trillion. In the maths of what South Africa requires to achieve meaningfully, we need to address the challenges that we face, unemployment, and to industrialize our country at scale, and to lead Africa's green transition, and to build the infrastructure on which our people's future depend. We do so with a keen appreciation of the current state of the foreign direct investment climate. Across the continent, Africa as a whole accounts for only 4% of global FDI, and recent increases have been driven largely by once-off mega projects such as the $35 billion development in Egypt, and they will also be driven by the Lobito corridor investment. Although we remain a significant continental player, accounting for between 15% and 20% of Africa's total FDI, our growth depends heavily on domestic investment. The opening position of the second drive of this investment process is 415 billion rand confirmed fixed investment and 479.8 billion of DFI being announced in this room today. So what all this amounts to, just in this one shot, we are going to hear investments that will be announced here as commitments, as real investments that will go on South African ground that will total 889.8 billion rand that are going to be announced today. Now, the mathematics that I was taught at school, in an apartheid education school, always taught me that you round up. You round up and you don't round down. And if a figure is closer to being rounded up, you round it up. So my rounding up then brings this to 900 billion rand. That will be announced today. That will be in 81 projects, 9 provinces, 22 source markets, and over 230 100,000 permanent jobs that will be created. Now, that has an impact on our economy. It has an impact on our people. This is only the start of an era of new growth and dynamism for the South African economy. The accountability framework is unchanged from the first drive. Every investment announcement that will be made here will be vetted and signed and will represent a firm commitment by business leaders in this room. Every year we will report back on what has been promised and what has been delivered. Now, as we seek to deepen our trade and investment relations as South Africa, we remain committed to maintaining policy certainty and to accelerating the momentum of the structural reform agenda that we are on. A question is often asked, is this momentum of reform sustainable? Will we see it being sustained into the future? And my simple answer is yes. The reform process that we are on now is irrevocable and irreversible because it is in the interest of our economy, of our people, that we should transform and reform our economy so as to make it inclusive, so that all South Africans can benefit. And all key stakeholders, be they business, they should invest and make profits. Be it labor, their workers should be well paid and get living wages. Is it communities? They must feel that when businesses invest in their environments, those businesses become good corporate citizens and be part of the community. As for government, we are the enablers. We will continue enabling businesses to grow, for we have one interest: grow the economy, get tax revenues, and continue to advance the interests of our people. We are creating the conditions for investment-led growth that is broad-based, inclusive, and durable. So let us all move forward together with confidence, with partnership, and with a shared commitment to enhance South Africa's future. For as you invest, you advance the interests of our country. As you invest, we know that you make profits. And South Africa is ready for business, it's open for business, and we have positioned it as a more conducive place to invest your money. You can depend on South Africa. We are reliable, we are dependable, and we are a good investment destination. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for the President of the Republic of South Africa. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that overview of all of our reforms, underscoring the point of the resilience of our economy, and also making the point around our transformation agenda, Mr. President. I think it's quite important to note that our agenda is an investment imperative. It's an imperative that will build a society of vested citizens that will underpin the country investment case. It's not a nice to have. I think it was quite an important point for you to raise. Thank you for that, Mr. President. And then for the ladies, please hold on to your lipsticks. There may very well be some young single men out there having recognized, shall we say, an investment opportunity.